Darren, my friend, you're hanging out down there in Miami waiting for this hurricane to come through. You got nothing better than to sit around and talk to me while you wait.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
I love that. As I've been looking into your background, getting ready for this conversation, I found there's an animal that really sets the tone for both of us.
hmm
That's that's the coyote.
Oh yeah, yeah. Desert coyote.
Always.
I love canines, man. I'm a big dog man, so coyotes fit right in with that. I had several dogs over the years, and dogs are therapeutic, especially for if you're going through issues and everything. Oh man, I love dogs. I love animals, period. So
That's cool. See, I really get into them based on their ability to persevere and their
yes.
their ability to adapt.
Yes, yes. And they're non-judgmental too. So, some of them, because some of the dogs that I've had over the years were rescue dogs. So some of them were abused. And when you're dealing with an animal that's been abused, you have to connect with them differently than one that's just looking for love because they have trust issues. And I kind of get a lot of that because if you read my background, I grew up in the streets of Brooklyn and was homeless for 3.5 years, and I didn't trust anybody. So it took me a long time. So when I come across an animal like that, especially even cats, there's some cats that have issues too, and I went to some of the shelters and everything, but yeah, I just love to be able to help.
See, that's the cool part is like when you look at a coyote or you look at any kind of animal, if you're open to it, you can really see yourself in that. Because
Yes.
I did a lot of that too. I had a good chunk of my life where I was homeless and
Mm,
I had zero ability to trust anybody.
yeah. Yeah.
And, with all those traumas and things that we collect in our lives, to step out into the woods and watch a coyote function, in a situation where everybody around him is being brave,
Yeah.
he'll look like the most scaredest, you know, thing in the world just to be different.
Yeah.
In that way he can observe and learn from everybody around him and vice versa. When everybody else is scared, the
Yeah.
coyote will show his strength to kind
Yes.
of lead the way. And I feel like a lot of us have those traits,
Mhm.
but because of the traumas that we experience in life, we don't let them shine through. We're
That's
too
true.
afraid.
That is so true. That is so true. Recently I was working in Fort Lauderdale, which is like an hour away from where I live. And we had a report that there were some coyotes in the area. So I guess they were hungry and they came out. So it was three of them. I think one of them, BSO, the sheriff's department. I guess they captured one of them, but there still were two. I guess it was the mother and father and then the baby. So I think they caught the baby and then the mom and dad were like looking for the babies and stuff like that. So, but it breaks my heart, man, seeing animals neglected and abused and oh, and I worked at a for an ASPCA for a little bit more than a year. I did some nonprofit charity work because I believe in giving back. And when I was with the ASPCA, there were so many animal lovers that it wasn't funny, and even folks that weren't animal lovers donated, even though they weren't animal lovers, but they didn't want to see any animals hurt. And so our charity had a good way of giving back and helping those animals in need. Anything from dogs, cats, horses. I didn't even know they capture horses and everything too, especially during like the hurricanes and all that stuff, which is crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's always somebody out there trying to help someone or something. That's to me, because of my work, that's what I've developed and learned about myself.
hmm
Is that's where the real learning happens,
Yes.
is by expressing that compassion from your heart.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be something that you're completely passionate about. It's just an opportunity that's there. So
Yeah.
you jump on it for the benefit of whatever positive is going to come out of it. turns into a learning experience and a benefit and a positive for yourself to help you grow as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe in growth because, you know, my mentor always says when growth is possible, nothing's impossible. So, you know, you got to be always looking for the next thing to kind of connect you to Mother Earth. And I do that every Saturday and Sunday. I go out by the beach, and especially before the sun comes up, because when the sun comes up, oh man, it's atrocious. I'm originally from New York, so I'm still part polar bear. So I love the cold weather. So it's an adjustment period. My wife loves it, but so I get out there before the sun comes up, and to get to soak in those vibes, the waves, and to see those sea animals come up. I mean, we've had man of war. I don't know if you've seen those big man of war creatures in the sea. They're huge, you know, and they're friendly. They're like dogs, you know. They'll come up to you and everything. And I was like, wow, this is crazy, you know.
That's one of those things that we all need to put little bit more intention in,
Yes,
is when we first get up in the morning, really taking time to connect with nature
yes.
before anything. Because when you do that, you find yourself. You know, you're able to center yourself, and you start the day off with your circle in balance.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a new routine, and a few of my guys that helped me launch the book. I help them to kind of get their routine also. So I start my routine off in the morning. I get up 5 o'clock every morning, and you know I have to go and be one with the Creator. You know, some people don't believe like I believe, but yeah, I have to do that. And I do my positive affirmations. I do my goals and everything. But being one with nature, being one with the Creator, it's, you know, it starts my day out just right. Even though the rest of the day can go to hell in a handbag, but at least I started out right. And for the most part, everything else is going to be right. So yeah, yeah,
Well, that's an idea of momentum. You know, getting some kind of little form of mastery or a win underneath your belt early in the day that gives you room to expand and even adapt, because you build that confidence
yeah.
so that you can face the rest of the challenges of the day.
Yeah, yeah, and having those good habits, you know, a lot of times we, you know, we fall back on bad habits, and I'm not singing to the choir, but I've had bad habits and everything, so I try to attach good habits, which is like in the morning, to the bad habits to kind of get away from doing a lot of the bad habits. But you're so right. You know, every morning it's therapeutic for me to be able to get that oneness, the centeredness, and I meditate also. So I meditate. Sometimes I'll meditate for an hour, and getting everything under control and having total focus, like being focused, is so important. You know, no matter what you're doing.
It is. And, you know, really, it's not an instant I set the intention and everything happens to fall perfectly in place. It's a matter I got to work at it with small steps. You know,
Absolutely.
meditation being a great example, because you meditate for an hour, I meditate for an hour. Somebody listening to this probably can't even sit still for 10 minutes. So they're completely turned off by the idea of two guys saying that they'll sit still for an hour.
Yeah.
I can't do that. That's irrelevant. Actually, for me, it's a funny story how I fell into meditation, because
Mm.
I was introduced to the idea. I fought it for an hour. I'm like, I'm not doing none of that. Can't do any of that. Went out back and I pulled out my crossbow to shoot. And I'm like, wait a minute. There it is. Everything that I just talked about for the last hour.
Yeah.
And then it built into, on my hikes, I would sit down and I would meditate for 20 minutes at a time. But, you know, the whole point that I'm getting at is it looks different for everybody.
Yes.
And you can build blocks, start with like 5 minutes and go up from there.
Yes.
But understand the most important part that you're trying to hone is your ability to observe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you mentioned crossbow. Um, I was trained in martial arts at an early age, and so that was one of the weapons I was trained in. So that and a few other exotic weapons. But and even that's therapeutic. Oh my
Oh
God.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's funny because I remember back in the early pages of this chapter of my life, thinking about when I'd go out in the woods and I'd go on a hunt. The goal was to sit still because of the consequence.
Yeah.
If I got picked up by a deer, I'd get busted, would get my shot.
Yeah.
And now it's, man, the goal is just to go sit still to sit still.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And funny you mentioned about hunting and stuff. I as a kid, I used to go with my godfather to hunting up in Maine, and when we get there, he said, "Oh, you got to put this on," and it was all this orange, right? So I was like, I look funny with all this orange on, and he put on his, and I was like, well, why do we got to walk around? What's the idea? He said, "Trust me." You want to have this on. Things will happen if you don't have this on. So I want you to keep the hat and keep all your gear on. I said, okay, all right, no problem. And we went into the woods and we did what we had to do. But there were a few people that got shot at and all this other stuff because they went and blended in with the terrain instead of standing out. But yeah, I have
Yeah.
memories with my godfather.
You bring up an interesting point in that story because there are a lot of things that a lot of people assume about hunting. But then again, there's a lot of things that people don't assume.
That's right.
And that's just how much mindfulness
Yeah.
really plays into hunting.
Yeah.
You know, you think about everybody just going out in the woods and it's just like a wild shooting range.
Mm,
And at one point that may have been the story.
right.
But as we've matured and we've really kind of thought about what we're doing out there, we've begun to change the narrative
Absolutely.
without it being mainstream,
Right, right.
which is kind of an interesting direction to go as far as each of us walking our story of life
Yeah,
because we want to do better and everybody expects all these phenomenal feats out of us,
right.
but a lot of the time the progress there is just that subtle little wave beginning to build and build and build,
Yeah,
and nobody sees that
right.
or comments on it, and because we all want the instant gratification,
Yeah,
we give up on it.
yeah, yeah. I talk to my kids about that all the time, and they always tell me, "Oh, Dad, you're a little behind the times." I say, "Yeah, but what I've been doing has been working for 50 plus years." So a lot of times, sometimes when I tell these stories to my kids, they like, "Yeah, Dad, we heard this a million times." I say, "Yeah, but did you learn the lesson?" And like my mentor always said, there's a lesson in the blessing. So a lot of times we miss it because we're not looking for it. So that misconception with people thinking, oh, hunters, they just go out and do this and do that. No, it's an art, it's a science, it's a whole thing around it. And the mindset of it is invaluable because getting back to nature, we need to do more of that. We need to do more of that.
We do, without a doubt. I
Yeah.
feel like ever since COVID, there's been a little bit more of a push to get people out there, and people have been more receptive
Yeah.
because I think it's stuck on the fact there was nothing else to do at the time during the lockdowns. But I think with getting out there, there's also the important aspect of the mindset of responsibility
Mhm.
and consideration, which gets
Abs
back to the compassionate side of the coyote.
Yeah.
For as much as we see and hear about the coyote making a kill or being in the way of everything, we don't hear about the compassion that
Right.
goes into taking care of the pack.
Right. 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 Pack animals, the distinct thing about pack animals, and you'll probably agree to this, is that they respect the hierarchy of it. And not only that, their primal instinct is impeccable. They can look and determine whether or not you're friend or foe from a distance. And because we give off that pheromone and things of the nature. Sometimes when we're fearful and the whole nine, and that is what we do as a species. But a lot of times we don't realize how powerful that is, and like I said, I worked in the mental health industry for 20 years. I started out in security and I became a mental health worker. So I got trained in management of aggressive behavior. I got trained in autism. So when it came to certain disorders and things of that nature, I had to be able to relate to those folks and be able to relate to people on different facets to be able to say, because you see someone sitting in the corner and they're not saying anything, they're suffering in silence. A lot of times, people would not want to go and talk to them. No, we need to get back to that. And a lot of our seniors, especially during COVID, a lot of our seniors and our kids, being that they weren't able to interact and be around each other and have that camaraderie, COVID roared its ugly head, and a lot of our kids are suffering from that right now, and we need to do something about it. So that's one of the things that's on my heart, and my mission to help kids, and not only kids, but be able to help the parents to be able to connect with the kids. Because a lot of times kids don't know if they should convey what they're going through with their parents. And it's sad. It's sad. I saw it time and time again, but we need to do something. We need to do more. We need to do better.
That's where, in my eyes, this whole idea of mindfulness is really caught on and
Hmm.
continues to help us bridge that gap. You
Yes.
know, I can speak from my own experience in the fact that I really have always struggled with depression and disconnection. And being able to learn a skill and a tool that brings you present into the moment,
Hmm.
no matter where you're at, it's something that's been a very strong definition of change
Yeah.
within my life.
Yeah.
And that's been also a lot of the fuel behind the project because, actually, suffering in silence was kind of one of the original themes that I was working because that was my story. And I don't think it's always just so much on the I don't know how to connect, or I don't know if it's valid to say what's on my mind. I think a lot of times there's also that shame that comes with it. And that shame is kind of built up within the context of the vocabulary that we use in our heads.
Hmm.
So at that, because to me, that was a huge transition point,
Hmm.
was tackling that vocabulary
Yeah.
and changing it, looking at the environment around me and seeing how I could shift the sentence that I play out in my head.
Right.
And ultimately that helped me to learn how to take that shame and put it back down on the ground and leave it there behind me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of our disorders come from a great deal of things that we experienced in our childhood and has never been addressed and even thought of, and that it had a long-term effect on us. So, like my wife and I, we both have ADHD, and I have a touch of it. She's got a little more than me, but being able to connect in the beginning a long time ago, but just as I was becoming homeless, I was an introvert. And I mean, my wife, she looks at me now and she's like, "No, you were never an introvert." I'm like, "Yeah, no, baby, I was an introvert. I couldn't lead two people in silent prayer." So, when it comes to being able to convey and get your story out there and talk about how you're feeling, what you're going through, sometimes we feel foolish connecting and talking to the next person, but we shouldn't. Just a little while ago, a good buddy of mine, um, about a week and a half ago, I went to go see his brother in the hospital. The spirit had led me to. It didn't sit well with me, because he had been battling cancer and everything, stage 4, and so I said, you know what? I said, give me his address. what hospital he's in. So I went to go see him and everything. And when I went to go see him, I felt before going in, I felt the anger because, when someone's going through cancer or something traumatic like that, they're kind of in that place where it's why me, and I've been in that situation time and time again. So I just went there to try to love on him, man, and give him some words of encouragement and just be there and let him know. So listen, I'm praying for you each and every day. And brother, if you need whatever you need, I'll be back. I'll be here, And I gave him a copy of my book too. And he said, oh, well, yeah, put it right there. And I said, no, I said, do you want me to autograph it? He said, that's your book? I said, yeah. He said, oh, I like books like, from actual authors and everything. So he started reading the book and everything. So my guy, he just told me about 2 hours ago, he passed away yesterday. And at least he's not in any more pain anymore, But to see the brother who had been taking care of his big brother go through all that, I text him back. I said, listen, brother, I said, if you need a hug, I got you. I got you. And he texted me back. He said, man, you don't know what that did for me. You just never know, you know?
My condolences, most definitely there. But you're right. You never know. And that's where we talk about, the pack mentality of the coyote. And we keep coming back to showcasing different strengths along with weaknesses
Yeah.
of that animal itself and how he embraces those things.
Yeah.
Even in the hardest of moments, he turns toward life
Yes.
and he finds a way to persevere. And, like you shared in that story, your friend, before he took his last breath, he got to embrace that.
Yeah.
And he got to perk up for a few moments and enjoy a little bit of time underneath that blanket of perseverance and realizing I don't have to be angry with my set of circumstances.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a matter of what I choose to do with the moments I have left.
Absolutely.
That's going to dictate the journey and ultimately how I feel at the very end.
Yeah. 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 And another thing is, and when you said when you started talking about the coyote, I remember on Teen Wolf they had a scene with different spirit animals and everything, and the coyote, that coyote connected with me big time, man, and ever since then, I have a few pictures of coyotes in my phone and everything. So, and even one of my screenshots, well, I don't know if you can see it. In the back, there's a white wolf.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I wholeheartedly connect with that, man, big time. Yeah.
The wolf is another one that we stereotype completely wrong.
Yes.
We look at him as a bloodthirsty killer, the best of them out there, right? It's only
Yeah,
because we
pack
see,
animals too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And all these stereotypes we come up with are because we only see the best of.
Yeah.
We only see the success. We don't see what happens on the other end of it
Absolutely.
when they face failure. In their world, failure means starvation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Not being able to feed their kids and everything. Yeah.
yeah. In our world, it isn't always life and death. It can be, but at the same time, if we look at them and we take those lessons of the things that we see on social media, they're bright, they're shiny, people are smiling. It's not every moment of life.
That's right. That's right. But there's so much fake stuff on social media, man. I mean,
Yes.
I look at a lot of the kids, especially here in Miami, Florida, and then some of these kids are driving these expensive cars and all that, and so they post these things on Instagram and Facebook and you name it. So, and the kids looking at it don't know that it's fake. Don't know that, okay, they might be using someone else's car. They might have rented the car. So there's so much unnecessary noise. That's the nice way of saying it.
Right?
that
Exactly.
it really needs to be under control because otherwise our young kids think, oh well, I don't have to go to school, I don't have to do this, I don't have to do that, I don't have to listen to anybody. No, 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 no. You gotta slow your roll and get back to basics. So that's what I believe. Mm,
Well, I mean, it does come down to, you got the choice of
yes.
what you're going to do. Just like you keep talking about the wolf and the coyote. They have the choice to make. They're able to get back to the basics and stay grounded enough to see where the work can be put
Yeah.
in order to gain that next success.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me tell you, when it comes to the wolf, and matter of fact, a friend of mine, I don't know what made her develop. She had shirts, and she walked around all of New York wolf pack. So I hadn't heard of that till she started wearing that, and until the day she still, I think I connected with her on Facebook not too long ago. She still is a wolf pack person, and I love the wolf. I love, like I said, I love all canines. I love, and especially the animals that don't get enough good reviews and people don't know. I mean, recently there was a gentleman on, I think, Instagram. He's been, I guess, training. He's got like 3 wolves, and they're pretty big. But they're just, oh, I just love that. I just love that, man. I miss my guy, my dog that I had. He passed away 2 years ago, and it was pretty rough at the end. He had cancer, and he had vestibular disease, which is like vertigo. So he was constantly in that mode where everything shakes and everything, and just being there for his last breath. He died in my arms, and I'll never forget that. It was kind of hard working for the charity after that, because the day after I started working for the charity, and they were like, okay, how come you're not smiling? How come, you got to be kind of friendly, talking to folks about the charity and everything? I was like, okay, all right, yeah, I'm, I'll do what I have to do. But I got into it after eventually, but I did it in dedication to him, and yeah, every morning I look at his paw prints, man, and you know, but soon we'll be getting another animal. So not sure which one. I'm a big dog man, so I like big dogs. So hopefully,
I think that's a beautiful example of intention behind a decision. Because, you could have been down and you could have just let things be. But
yeah,
instead, you chose to honor an energy that came into your story,
yeah,
helped you to progress it, and then subsequently veered off onto their own journey.
yeah,
That's a challenging thing for a lot of people to really truly understand.
yeah,
You know, and the thing with grief is the fact that it's around us all the time.
yeah.
It's most definitely the cruelest of levelers of all mankind. It'll bring us all to our knees in one way or another.
Oh yeah,
But it's what we do with it.
yes, yes. And not only what we do with it, but how we are able to comfort that person that might be going through it themselves, and at least if they're not ready to talk, if they're not ready to interact, just to let them know, when you're ready, I'm here for you, just like what I did with the gentleman earlier. So and let him know. I said, well, and when I see you, man, I'm gonna give you a hug, and he's a pastor. So that was even a deeper bond that he and I had connected with. So, but like you said, mental health is so important. We need to not take it for granted, and really get back to basics, because that community, we need that love. You know, love is the most important thing to me. So
Well, the thing about love, though, is the fact that it is all around us if we're willing to open our eyes and open our heart to
yes,
find the examples to help us learn how to express it. We've been talking about the pack animal this whole conversation. Those are beautiful examples of it. But if
Hmm.
you look at just the whole correlation of the circle of life and the circle of energy, it's there. It's
Yes.
balanced. There's nothing higher, nothing lower, nothing comes first or behind. It just all comes together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it creates the beauty and the celebration of the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially during COVID, when I was working at the hospital, sometimes things would be overwhelming. So on my lunch break, I would go and I would leave and go outside and just soak in the fresh air, be thankful, and also to get back to, like you said, Mother Nature. And in a city environment, it was difficult because of the noise at hand, but it was so empowering, to be able to reset. So
I think that's actually probably the best point to leave this at is the fact that regardless of where you are, the concrete world, the wilderness, whatever, Mother Nature is always beneath your feet.
yes,
There's always the time and the ability to reset if you're willing to take the time to connect with it.
absolutely, absolutely. Mother Nature is always willing to connect with us. We need to connect with her.
Absolutely. Before I let you go, though, you got to talk a little bit about your book, what you got going on, coming up, people get to you, and all that good stuff.
Well, the name of the book is Overcoming and Beating the Odds, Turning Each of Life Lessons into Blessings. And it's a culmination of over 2 decades of stuff that I went through as a kid and in the rough streets of Brooklyn. So I was homeless for over 3 years. My mom put me out when I was 15, and I had to learn how to survive. And I've lived in some pretty crazy places. Has went through a lot of dark times. Lived sleeping in shelters and on the street, and I even slept in a cemetery and abandoned buildings and things like that. So it was crazy, crazy time. Sleeping in the train yard of the New York City subway system. And nowadays they kick you out of there, man, and they make sure that you don't go to the train yard and all that stuff. But it was real in the field, like I tell a lot of the kids that I mentor and coach and stuff. So basically, over the years at the hospital, I had told a little bit of my story to some of the big professionals there, some of the doctors and nurses, and they were like, "You went through all of that?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." I was like, it was like, no, no, we can't, we don't see that. You're not angry, and you're positive, upbeat, and everything. I said, because I'm from the ghetto, but I'm not in the ghetto. So the ghetto's not in me, and all my circumstances is not in me. It helped to develop me, and I got linked up with men that helped mentor and guided me over the years, and they made a difference, a real difference in my life. So, and there were a lot of, and I had trust issues. So when someone said, "Oh, well, I'll mentor you, I'll guide you," and I was like, "Okay, what's in it for this person?" And okay, how are you going to help me? So I didn't trust a lot of people at that time, but over a period of time, I ran into this um, priest that took the time, and he gave me shelter from time to time in the church, and his name was Father Fay, and Father Fay really made a difference. And he, subtly connected with me to the point where the things that he would say to me started clicking, and I was like, "Wow, okay, all right." So, and I started taking notice, and then he was like, "All right, well, and he had me clean up and everything. So I was like the janitor and everything. So I had to, sing for my supper, and yeah, he really made a big difference in my life. And then Nelson Mandela came to town right after being free from prison, and he came to my school. So he had told me that he was coming, and I was like, really? I said, who's it? You know, I really didn't know too much about him. I mean, I've heard about him, and you know, because everybody was talking about him, and that was like the icing on the cake after that. So, and he was like 20 feet away from me when he walked past and he got up on the podium and everything. So quite a few of those interactions over the years have made a difference and helped me to be able to be the man I am now. And so my goal right now is to give back, you know, pay it forward, you know. So by helping another person, they can help 10,000 of other people. So yeah, yeah.
I think that's a beautiful mission. You forgot to mention though, where people can get in touch with you.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. My office number is 786-309-9412. They can check me out on LinkedIn, that's Darren Williams, and also my email is williamsdc981@gmail.com. I'm also on Linktree /DC Williams. And I'm looking forward to being able to help and mentor and coach. I'm putting together courses right now to be able to help people. And because I've already had people ask me, what do I do now that I've read your book? How can I take this to the next level? So those are the things I'm going to be doing to further the mission.
Awesome. Darren, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me. This has been a lot of fun. I hope
Yes.
I hope you ride through the hurricane and nice and safe and all that fun stuff.
Heck yeah.
And we'll have to get together and share some more stories after that.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Appreciate you, man. I love the shirt too, man.
Oh,
No pride,
thanks.
no glory, baby.
Got to put them out there. My boys over at Caliber Coffee.
Okay, okay. I'm definitely gonna be looking them up now.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, my friend. I don't believe in goodbye. It's too permanent, too final. So till we meet again, whether it's this life or the next, I wish you a
Absolutely.
safe and prosperous journey.
You too. You too. Stay safe, brother.